Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have very disturbing news coming out of mainland Russia. We're hearing from unconfirmed sources that the Rostov nuclear power plant inside of mainland Russia may have suffered a radiation leak as of today, and that may be connected to a safety incident that occurred at the plant just about a day or two ago, and right now on the ground in Rostov, there is some panic from civilians that this may be the case. So, very big news and disturbing news on that one, and we're also hearing that Iran may be just 1 or 2 weeks away from developing nuclear weapons, functional ones, which is also very disturbing. We're hearing that from US officials, and also we're hearing Ukraine shot down another Russian fighter jet, and also we get more details on the attack in Israel that occurred last night. But with that, we're jumping into our first post of the day, which goes to Osint Yuri. And this is by far the biggest news story of the day. We're hearing from unconfirmed sources that there is a potential radiation leak at the Rostov nuclear power plant, and like the post says, it says there are currently rumors and panic in the Rostov, Russia region related to a potential and officially unconfirmed radiation leak from the nuclear power plant there, and locals claim that all the pharmacies have run out of potassium iodide tablets, which are specifically used to treat radiation exposure, and it appears that the rumor started from a post on July 18th which stated that in the Rostov People's Republic, the emergency release of radioactive water at the nuclear power plant has not yet been localized, and in addition, there's a constant leak of radiation, and according to Rostov, who manages that facility, the radioactive background in Rostov is normal, and in fact, it's already 75 times higher than normal, and also it says here that the Russian government continues to deny that there was an accident and states that the power outage resulted from rumors of a nuclear accident. So this is very disturbing news indeed, but I want to emphasize that right now this is a rumor. It's unconfirmed information from sources on the ground in Rostov, so it could turn out to be true or it could turn out to be false, so take it with a grain of salt, but right now there is certainly panic on the ground because these citizens believe that this is indeed happening. And considering Russia's history with Chernobyl, this is not too far-fetched to think that this could be the case. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and you might recall that just a couple of days ago, we actually heard of a failure at the Rostov nuclear power plant, and on July 16th, which was just a few days ago, we learned that one of the power units at the Rostov nuclear power plant shut down as a result of a safety mechanism tripping due to malfunctions at a turbine generator, and in Krasnodar, as a result of this, more than 100 power stations were shut down, and also many other regions experienced problems with their electricity. So after realizing that just a few days ago, like I said on July 16th, that this incident did occur at the Rostov plant, it's not too far-fetched to think that the rumor may be true about a radiation leak. With that, let's take a look at the location of the power plant itself to give you an idea of exactly where this is happening. And right here in Google Maps, you can see there's the Rostov nuclear power plant. Over here to the left, you can see here is Rostov-on-Don. I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. There's Rostov-on-Don, which is a routine target of attacks by the Ukrainians. And right here in the middle, near this, looks like this river here, the Don River, is the nuclear power plant. It's right here in the middle and pretty close to the Ukrainian border. Very interesting to see the location, and that is where it is. But with that piece of news out of the way, we're going to keep an eye on that story about the nuclear power plant. But we also have some other big news here. And in this post, we're learning that Iran is just 1 or 2 weeks away from reaching capacity of producing fissile material for nuclear weapons, which is confirmed by the US Secretary of State. So obviously that is a pretty disturbing piece of news. I will say this though, we've heard this actually several times before that Iran is on the verge of making nuclear material, and we've also been wondering on this channel, does Iran actively have functioning nukes, or are they simply in the process of still trying to procure them or develop them? Right, we've sort of been in the dark on that, but if you believe what the Secretary of State is saying, Iran is very close to a real nuclear breakthrough, and right now with Iran acting up and also trying to attack Israel and also attack the United States as well, this is quite disturbing news if you do believe it and take it at face value. But with that, we're jumping into our next article here, and this one goes to Nexta. And in this post here, we can see that Ukrainian soldiers shot down an Su-25 in the Pokrovsk sector, and this was reported by the Operational and Strategic Group of Troops, and it's noted that this Russian aircraft tried to fire on the AFU positions. Once again, another Su-25 lost by the Russians and shot down by the Ukrainians, so another big victory for the Ukrainians, and also we are expecting the F-16s to arrive within days here, so now that the Russian aircraft is getting shot down, Russia's losing more aircraft, and Ukraine is finally going to get some. Right now, not looking good for the Russians, and another Ukrainian victory. But with that, we're jumping into our next post here, and this one goes to the Israel Defense Forces. And we're going to switch gears just a little bit off the news about the nuclear power plant and also the news about Iran getting nuclear weapons potentially, and we're going to move back to the attack that occurred on Israel last night. We somewhat covered this during our stream, but we've gotten more information information and more footage to cover today. Right now, we're learning that a residential building in central Tel Aviv was struck by an Iranian UAV launched from Yemen, and leading to at least one civilian casualty and many injured. And Israel says they'll be taking more actions to protect their civilians in the future. So let's take a look at this video right here. We actually see the drone coming in and hitting the target, which we did not get to see last night. So let's take a look. So right here you can see the drone flying right into central Tel Aviv, and there it goes. It's going to go right down and smash and explode right there next to that residential building. So that was the massive explosion that everyone heard last night in Tel Aviv, and they actually said the civilians on the ground felt the ground shaking as a result of this explosion. So it got a lot of attention, and unfortunately one person did die from this attack. And it raises the question, how did this drone get through all the air defenses in Israel and actually make it to its target inside of a heavily populated area? That is a major question which is not answered at the moment, and I'll be very curious to hear the answer to that question. But with that, we're moving on to our next post here, and this one goes to Winter Intel. And like we also heard last night, we were told that the US Army was also involved in shooting down some of these incoming drones to Israel, and specifically, as reported by Israeli Channel 12, we've learned that the US Army claims to have intercepted 4 drones en route to Israel. So very good to know that the US Army was able to step in and help Israel, and also very interesting to hear that the US Army was involved in shooting them down whatsoever, considering that they did, or at least one of them, made it through all of Israel's defense systems. Very interesting piece of news. And also, moving on to our last post here about the Israeli situation, this one goes to OSINT Defender. And I just wanted to point this out, this analysis from OSINT Defender. They said the footage from last night's drone attack on Tel Aviv in central Israel has confirmed that the drone did come from the direction of the Mediterranean, likely indicating that it passed through Egyptian airspace before turning towards Israel. So, another piece of the puzzle as to how this might have gotten through. If this is indeed the case, very interesting. It adds a little bit of complication to the story, but once again, there's a lot we don't know, and we simply need to wait for more information to come out because it just happened last night. But with that, we're moving into our next article here, and this one is going to go to the Kyiv Independent, and we're also being told by the energy minister in Ukraine that nearly 5,000 workers were evacuated from the Russian-occupied nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia due to the Russians occupying that plant. The Ukrainians finally got out all these workers. So that is a lot of people to be evacuated, and it's good to know that they've gotten to safety. But now the question is, how long is Russia going to occupy the Zaporizhia plant now that all the workers have been evacuated? And that's confirmed by the energy minister right here. That does raise some more questions. So very interesting to hear, but it's also good to know that the workers got out. And moving on to our next article here, we now have one from Nexta as well, and we're getting some very positive news for a change. We're learning that President Zelensky says that the Polish government has made a decision that will expedite the delivery of F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. And Zelensky did not specify what the decision was, nor did the Polish government announce anything publicly. But once again, more talk about the F-16s, and hopefully they do arrive sooner than later. But with that, we're jumping into our next article, and this one goes to Nexta as well, and we're learning that the US, this is US defense news, we're learning that they've conducted their first exercise with the Dark Eagle hypersonic system, and that the military practiced the quote-unquote detection target engagement chain in real time. And the cost of a Dark Eagle missile is a whopping $41 million, according to the publication. So here we can see the first exercise with a functional hypersonic weapon by the United States, so also very good to see. I really don't have much information about this, but it's good to know that the US is once again delving into hypersonics and making progress in that region, because just about a year ago we had heard of a pretty big failure by the US in hypersonic technology, and now we're hearing about some successes. So a good change indeed. And now moving on to our next article, this one is going to Status 6 Military and Conflict News. And in this post, we're hearing that the Russian courts have now sentenced American Wall Street journalist Evan Gershkovich, who was detained in Russia, to 16 years in a strict regime penal colony. Now they have taken this political prisoner, who is a journalist, who was in Russia simply doing his job, and now they've convicted him to 16 years in the gulag. So not good whatsoever, and hopefully we can secure this guy's release in the near future. But with that, we're moving on to our last article of the day, and this one goes to Nexta. And just real quick to get you off of all of that really heavy news we've had today, because the news today has honestly been a bit concerning, to be perfectly honest with you. We're learning that we see a photo here of a bus protected by an anti-drone net spotted in the Russian city of Belgorod, which is really pathetic to see. And right here's a close-up of the photo. You can see there is the big net around the bus, and that is designed to protect it from drones. So what do you know? The Russians are really getting ingenuitive out here, and they're really fixing up their buses to be safer than ever. It could be nicer though if they had a bus that was probably, from the 21st century, because this is the pretty old bus. It's an old hunk right here with a drone net around it. The drone net is newer than the bus. What do you know? But anyways, that is our last piece of news for the day, and I hope you found today's video informative, and if you have, please press the like button and also subscribe to the channel as well, because that greatly helps us get the news out there. And also be sure to go check out our Patreon page. The link is in the description below for Patreon, where you can sign up for a monthly membership and help fund the channel and keep the news coming out. But with that, we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our nightly war news stream, and with that, bye bye for now.